So you finally finish your game and it's time to start making some revenue. What you need is in-app purchases. Microtransactions easily stand out as one of the best ways to make money from games and can range from removing ads to giving consumables to players, player boosts, and even subscriptions to capture loyal customers. Well, you're in luck because today that's exactly what we're going to be covering. Before we begin though, let's talk about at a high level what we're going to cover in this tutorial. Firstly, we're going to be using what is known as Codeless IAP. There's an older version of in-app purchases where you need to write a fair amount of code to initialize the in-app purchases service, but over time, Unity has condensed this into a simple way of doing this and provided some callback methods. There are three ways to interact with an in-app purchase button. These are consumable purchases. This can be thought of as things that can be purchased multiple times and consumed multiple times without limit. A good example of this is something like a health potion or a resurrection scroll or a retry on death, something like that. Then you have non-consumable purchases. These are the things you want people to only be able to purchase one time. So they're things like removing of ads from your game or a subscription that will last a month and then can become purchasable again. And the last one is restoring purchases. I'm not going to cover this one in detail because it isn't really an Android thing, it's an iOS feature. And the purpose of it is basically to be able to recover in-app purchases that have been made if a user switches phone or they lose their data for some reason. Because I don't actually have a MacBook or anything to develop iOS on, I can't really test this, so I'm not going to be covering this. So what we're going to be doing is looking at some very simple UI creation inside of a panel. We'll then add some text and some fields and an IAP button. This is a special type of button and will require some configuration before we're able to use it. Once we've done that configuration, we'll use the two built-in callback methods. The first one being onPurchaseComplete, which is what gets called when someone's actually successfully purchased from your shop, and then you can write some extra code to grant them any type of reward that you're giving. And the second is onPurchaseFailure. Now this one handles when someone fails to make a purchase, and it's an important one to do because if for some reason you've incorrectly implemented this, we really want to make sure that we know the reason why the purchase failed so that we can fix that up fast and allow people to make purchases. I'll be looking to do a two-part video series on this. The Google Developer Console side of this will be the second part that I go through. This video is just going to cover the Unity code side and we'll get through to the point of seeing a purchase and then we'll wrap up. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I do a range of videos on everything Unity and game development related, and let's get into it. Okay, so here we are in Unity. I've got a very basic template scene set up. We've got our main camera that comes with the scene, a canvas on which I've placed my background panel, and inside of there I've just created a shop item panel. And these are two normal text elements, and that's just because IAP doesn't like the Text Mesh Pro elements. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the Package Manager, and I'm going to go into Unity Registry, and I'm going to search in-app. That's actually the first one I had open, so that's good. And in in-app purchasing, I can see that I've currently got 2.0.6 installed. It's up to 3.2.3. I think I'd rather just use the most up-to-date version, so I'm going to just hit install on this. Just while that installs, there's a reason why I like to update the package before I import it. Generally, what will happen is if you have an older version of in-app purchasing, and Unity ads is a little the same like this, they change quite a fair bit, so updating a project can be a bit painful. And if you're importing it for the first time, I would recommend just going to a higher version immediately, rather than enabling the service, installing it on 2.0.6, and then upgrading to 3.2.3. It's just a little bit simpler. It's something I use. Doesn't necessarily matter if you don't choose to, but I would recommend going that way. So the next thing we're going to do is go into our services window. And inside of services, we're going to be enabling this in-app purchasing. Now it's telling me I don't have a project connected to this yet, so I'm just going to pick a temporary project, create my project ID. It asks me if I'm targeting it to 13 and under. I'm not. So I'll hit save. And now it brings me back to that services side. So inside of here, I am going to be turning this on. And it pulls through immediately as 3.2.3. Okay, so we are going to close out of this now. Okay, so now that we've installed the service for Unity in-app purchases, we'll have a few more options available to us. So if I right click and I go down to Unity IAP, I can now add an IAP button. Now this IAP button is not childed correctly, my mistake. Just put that at the bottom here, and I'll drag that down to here. Now this IAP button has a built-in product ID, a IAP catalog, which we'll be opening up and filling out a bit later, the type of purchase that you're making, so a purchase or a restore, whether that purchase itself is consumable or not, a callback event for on purchase complete, so this will get called when someone successfully makes a purchase, and on purchase failed, so this will get called when someone fails to make a purchase. It also has a neat little built-in text elements, so I can tie this together. So I've got my title text, my description text, and my price text. I'm just going to use the button text as the price text just to keep it simple. But because we're going to need 3 buttons, I'm going to go folder create, and I'm going to add a prefabs folder to this. I'm going to drag in this shop item, and this will be the one that we edit. So if I double click on shop item here, left click on my button, I can now drag in my text elements, and I will just call this one here price, and drag in price as well. And then when I close out of this, I can minimize this one here and drag in a few more shop items. So we'll put one in the center and another one here, and we'll put that one on the edge here and just make it look a little bit kind of even. That's fine. And the other way. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is fill out our IAP catalog. Now this is just a list of the products that we're going to have. So Unity recommends a naming convention for this, which is actually using in your build settings, player settings, this company name, product name, and then the name you want to call it. So it'll actually look a lot like this, com.defaultcompany.unity, my Unity IAP test. And I'm actually going to copy that exactly, close down my build settings here, go into this IAP catalog and just paste that. So com.defaultcompany.myUnityIAP-test, and this can be just the name of your company and also obviously the name of your game. But at the end of that, I'm going to add .red potion. My red potion is going to be a consumable because I want people to be able to drink multiple of them. Red potion is the title, and a potion that restores 10 HP. That's fine. The only 2 fields that we need to fill out here that's left is the Google configuration and the Apple configuration. In the Apple configuration, you select the pricing via a tier list. I'm just going to make this 99 cents. And in Google configuration, I'm going to make this 0.99. It's good to keep these 2 aligned because then pricing's relative within your game. And I'm also going to add a second product. Just paste that in again. And I'm going to say this can be ad free. Now ad free is going to be a non-consumable purchase. That's because people will buy this once and they'll never need to buy it again. So we are going to call this ad free. Removes adverts from your game permanently. And inside of here, we'll give this a pricing of, make that, I don't know, $13. Sure, why not? $13.99. And that's all that we really need to set up for this. So we're going to exit out of this IAP catalog, and we're going to go back into our scene. Now my IAP button, this product ID now has these products that I've created. So I've got my red potion, and on this one, I've got my ad free. And for this final button, I'm just going to make this one, instead of being a purchase, I'm going to make it a restore. So this would restore purchases if you changed phones and so on, but we're not doing this on Android, so I'm not going to worry about this too much. Now, if I were to hit play on the game, what will happen is it will start to actually fill out some of the text. So I can see I've got, this is my red potion, a potion that restores 10 HP, cost me 99 cents, ad free, removes ads permanently, cost me $13.99. This one I won't worry about filling out, but we could fill out the text for it. So in here, if I were to click this now, it does actually bring up a shop, and it would actually let me buy and cancel this. So if I hit buy, it will actually charge the person for doing it, but the issue is that we haven't actually set up any code to reward them for doing something. So don't just stop here, definitely finish this off. But I could also click here and go cancel. Now, the reason why this is doing nothing at the moment is because these 2 functions, on purchase complete and on purchase failure, have not been created yet. So we need to get into that now. So I'm going to create inside of my assets a new folder. I'm going to call that scripts. Inside of scripts, I'm going to create a C# script, and we'll just call that Iap Manager. In a real game, you would have an Iap Manager, but because I don't, I'll just drag this onto my background element. So I've got my Iap Manager here, and I'm going to open this one up in Visual Studio. Okay, so I've actually filled this out just to make this a little bit quicker. The code isn't particularly complex, but I'll walk through it now. So the first thing that we're going to need is the namespace unityengine.purchasing. This allows us to use the in-app purchasing service that we've added to our game. And then we're going to add in some private strings for the different IAP catalogs. So if you added multiple of these, all you'd be doing is going into here, clicking on your button, going into your IAP catalog, and you're basically just copying these strings here. So it's a reference to the IDs that you've created. Then we've got our onPurchaseComplete. So our onPurchaseComplete is actually a method that's specified on our IAP button, so is onPurchaseFailed. And this one expects to be given a product ID. So that's why we are passing in a product here, and we are just naming it product. At that point, I'm just checking to see which product you've actually purchased. So if the product.definition.id is red potion, which is the variable that I've created here, then all I'm going to do is grant the user a red potion. If it's not, then I check to see if they've removed ads instead. And if they've removed ads, then I'm going to grant them here. And then finally, we've got our onPurchaseFailure. So in here, our onPurchaseFailure expects a product ID again, and also a purchase failure reason. So we've got a product I've named product, a purchase failure reason that I've named reason. So at this point, you give them some sort of callback to say, hey, your purchase failed because you clicked cancel, or there wasn't enough money in the account, or something like that. And just to demonstrate this, I've given the debug.log events, just so that we can see it inside of the editor as well here. And I think we are ready to test it out. Inside of each of our buttons, we're going to be adding in the method from our background. And I will call this IAP onPurchaseComplete. And notice how this comes through as a dynamic product. That just means it's one that this button is actually really expecting that we do add. And a button again. And again, IAP Manager, our onPurchaseFailure. And we'll do the same for this one here. Background, IAP Manager, onPurchaseComplete. And again, background, IAP Manager, onPurchaseFailure. Now this one doesn't need it because we are only doing a restore function on this. So now I can see when I hit play, if I go purchase and I click buy, it says, hey, you've granted them 1 red potion. If I click add free, it goes, hey, you've removed ads. And that's it for the first part of this tutorial. This is how you set up the shop inside of Unity. In the next part, we're going to be going through how to set this up in the Google Play Store and how to connect your game to the Google Play Store for that purchasing. Again, if this video has helped, please consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.